AI is not only a technology shift, it is rewriting the rules of software engineering and revolutionizing how software is designed, developed, deployed, and optimized, starting with AI copilots accelerating code generation to autonomous agents driving QA and DevOps. Artificial intelligence is poised to displace approximately 9 million jobs by 2030, but it will eventually create 11 million new roles, fueling demand for AI specialists, developers, and analysts. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Analytics Insight podcast, where we talk about the ever evolving tech space. And I'm your host, Priya Dialani. Now, research from a 2023 McKinsey study shows that developers using generative AI can complete coding tasks up to twice as fast compared to traditional methods. Similarly, another study by GitHub and Accenture found that 90% of developers reported higher job satisfaction, and 95% said they enjoyed coding more than when using Copilot. Now, this shift is not just about speed. AI is redefining software development as a connected, intelligent ecosystem where every release becomes a new opportunity for systems to learn and improve. Let's welcome Prashant Verma, Head of R&D India at Harness, to discuss the impact of AI in software development lifecycle. Hi Prashant, how are you doing?
Hi, Priya. I'm doing great. And it's a really pleasure to be part of this podcast and talking to you.
Likewise, Prashant, we are really glad to host you on our podcast series. And of course, in today's episode, we are going to touch down on the impact of AI in software development lifecycle and how does the future look like for software engineers and developers, and what are certain things we should keep in mind when deploying AI in the entire engineering and software development lifecycle. So let's start by understanding more about Harness. So we would be really glad, and our listeners would want to understand more about the company and its specialization.
Sure. So it's this Harness is the primary vision of Harness is to be a leading modern AI software delivery platform. And as we starting to discuss about the AI impact on the entire software delivery, I think this is one platform which is trying to modernize and completely bring a lot of intelligence into how the software are getting built and delivered for its end customer. Today, software is impacting almost every aspect of the life, right? Like when you are looking at your travel, your banking, your daily needs, every aspect is being driven by you're looking at certain application, you are trying to interact with it and making your life easier through software. But behind the scene, it's not just the coding, but there are several different aspects of how the code goes through the quality checks, the security checks, the cost optimization and governance. And that's the pillar where we operate, right? We are trying to solve almost 70% of developers' time beyond code. Our mission is to enable 40 million software developers today to deliver their code to end user quickly, reliably, efficiently, and most important, securely. So these are the four pillars on which we operated. We were founded in 2017, and today we are close to 1,000 plus employees worldwide with 1,000 plus customers as well, right? And as I said, like our core focus are four pillars: DevOps, which is about the productivity and the tools around how the software is built and deployed. Testing, again, there are multiple different aspects of testing which comes into play. And then the security, which is becoming very, very important as we are growing into the world where things are becoming very malicious. Users are trying to create a lot of security vulnerabilities. So we try to focus on fixing them into the pipeline. And finally, the FinOps, the cost aspect of building and deploying the software, right? So these are the four pillars. We operate in a startup within a startup mode, and that's what has given us a lot of precedence in the last 7, 8 years. We are in the leaders quadrant of Gartner and Forrester's DevOps space. Today, we are talking about 250 million plus ARR, which is growing at a 50% year on year, right? So we are one of the fastest growing organization or other company in the Silicon Valley today. And as you also mentioned about with AI, the speed of coding has increased. And that's where it's not just about code, but how do we build trust in that code? How do we solve the quality aspect of the code? How do we understand the security is well taken care when the code is getting deployed, right? And that's where we come in. The speed of the coding has increased by 3 to 4 times, but the bottleneck beyond that has not been solved. And that's the problem that we are trying to solve for our customers.
Great. Thank you for that overview, Prashant. And I'm really glad to understand the kind of impact Harness is creating with a clear focus on innovation and problem solving, wherein you're trying to solve 70% of the developer's time behind coding, which has been one of the challenges which software developers and the entire development vertical has been facing since the last couple of years, I would say. But thanks to your innovation and the technology led education, your domain expertise, I think that really resonates across the markets and industries. Having said that, Prashant, we would like to know more about you as well. You have around 25 years of experience towards technical leadership and building products in the domain of internet space, e-commerce, travel, large-scale data enterprise. So, how has your journey been till date, Prashant, and what exactly is your role at Harness today?
Yeah, so it's a very exciting journey at Harness. So I joined Harness almost 14 months back with a mission to build this R&D center, Harness R&D Center, as one of the best center to work for, right, in terms of building the AI capability into the software delivery lifecycle, right? Since the year that I joined, we have grown by 75% since last year, and our ambition is to really become 1,000 plus in the next few years in terms of the talent that we want to grow in India. We strongly believe that India has a humongous talent pool, and then that's where we are going into the premier institute like IITs, IIMs, and trying to build that talent in India to foster all these 20 different modules which are there on Harness platform. Just to give you a background about my past, like before that, in the first 12 years, I worked on large enterprise customers. I started with I2, worked at Goldman, was with Informatica for some time, building their data quality and data integration pipelines. 2012-13, when things were shifting towards B2C, that's the space excited me about the kind of scale that we were looking at then and the entire user journey. So that's where I joined LinkedIn first, looking at their the news feed and some of the other recommendation systems. Post that, I was with Flipkart building their integration search platform and discovery platform. Prior to Harness, I was setting up one of the unicorns from Southeast Asia, built that center from 0 to 250 plus in India, right? But Harness journey, what excited me about Harness is how do I mix this B2B and B2C scale together and solve something which is really global in nature? At Harness, we are again trying to solve the problem which is right in time, right? As the AI is coming in, the digital transformation is going to take a lot of precedence. The speed of which it is moving is unprecedented, right? And that's where we are in. With more and more application, more and more infrastructure, we need a platform which can bring in a lot of governance, lot of policies and checks and balances in the entire software delivery lifecycle. So the journey at Harness has been really, really fantastic. Today in India, we have almost every product presence, right? Whatever the product that we are developing at Harness, every product has a presence in India. Harness is again very, very unique in a sense that it's not an after fact, right? Like where MNCs have grown to a certain level and then they start a center in India. Harness India was seeded at the time when Harness was born, right? So day one, we had a presence in India. We started developing our CI, CD, cloud cost management, feature like every product that we have on our portfolio today have a presence in India. And we are trying to bring the brightest mind, as I said, like from the premier colleges of IITs, IIMs, and other top colleges to further fuel this innovation and growth in India Center. So my focus is really making sure that Harness India is one of the best place to work for, where innovation happens across the entire software development lifecycle, and we make an impact for the global customers here.
Great, Prashant. Really glad to know about your role at Harness and how you have been driving both the strategy and execution and focusing on turning that the vision of company into measurable outcomes. Now, moving ahead, I think over the past decades, the software development life cycle (SDLC) has long been the backbone of enterprise software delivery, guiding teams through requirement gathering, development, testing, deployment, and even maintenance. But as the digital economy races forward, traditional SDLC methods are hitting a wall. Manual processes, disjointed tools, and reactive debugging practices are slowly making the velocity and introducing avoidable risks. Now, in the agentic era defined by rapid product releases, real time collaboration, and ever evolving customer needs, it's no longer enough to just follow the process. Development must become more intelligent, adaptive, and automated. And that's where we have artificial intelligence in SDLC. So, of course, the software development has evolved over a period of time across different stages. So, where does AI fundamentally change the SDLC, and why is this shift different from the previous transformations?
Yeah, that's the great question, Priya. All of us has gone through this transformation over decades, starting with our waterfall model where we had like large release cycles of quarters or year, right? Like we start with the requirement and then we go through the entire planning, execution, quality, and then release. Then came the agile, which trying to shorten the entire development life cycle, make it more iterative and feedback, which kind of speeded up the development cycle. But the challenge around beyond the code, right? Like how do we do this build, test, deployment continues to be there, right? It fixed the planning and development cycle, but then other things were still challenges. Still the concept of DevOps came, right? Which tried to build, break the wall between the developers and the operation team, coming with the right kind of processes and tooling. But that's slowly again took away, like as we moved into the cloud, as we moved into microservices, as we moved into multi-language paradigm, that entire advantage started to fade away slowly over time, right? We started to see multiple different tools for every steps, which kind of created a cognitive load for our developers. And that's where I think this entire paradigm shift or the new edge AI agentic flow is going to help in bringing in the efficiency and the productivity to the next level. What we are doing at Harness is making sure that we understand the entire ecosystem, right? Starting with your build artifacts, the build system, your the PRs that you are trying to raise against the changes, to your deployment pipeline, to your security scan, to your infrastructure, how the infrastructure is coded and real-time changes are reflecting on the infrastructure and vice versa, the cost aspect of the infrastructure. So all these are going to form the complete knowledge base around which the agents are going to operate and help bring the real productivity boost, right? Some of the customers that we operate has seen significant improvement in their development life cycle and the deployment life cycle. We are talking about the releases which used to take months has cut down to days. We are talking about the test cases which used to run for days. Again, like with intelligent test agents, we are able to bring down to like less than an hour, because we know like when the code line of code change, what exactly are the test cases that need to run. Similarly, like the security is not an after fact, it's part of the pipeline. When you're building and deploying, the security scan happens real time and the corrective actions can be taken with human in loop. So all that is going to give a significant boost in the productivity as this new paradigm like Dev 2.0 or agentic modern software delivery that we are talking about.
Definitely. And I think with the earlier transformation, what makes AI different isn't just improving one phase of the SDLC. I think it's reshaping how the entire life cycle thinks, learns, and adapts. Because unlike earlier shifts like, Agile or DevOps, they kind of focused more on the process optimization and speed. But on the other hand, AI here is actively participating in the decision making across design, development, and even post-release learning. And I think with generative AI and the use of generative AI has exploded in recent years. I mean, it's largely due to being, it's offering enough computational power to run the deep learning algorithms and increase in massive amounts of data, which is needed to train machine learning models. So, generative AI coding tools are changing the process of software development. But such advances also bring uncertainty. With AI writing code, what will this mean for software developers? So I think there's a lot of hype and debates happening around AI writing code. And in reality, how do you think AI is augmenting developers rather than replacing them? And what does that mean for engineering productivity?
Yeah, so AI definitely like that. The very first adoption of AI started happening in the vibe coding, as we all know. And initially, it has taken a lot of time, right? The change was not easy for developers to adopt, but now we do see significant increase in the coding world, right? Almost 3 to 4x higher number of PRs getting raised. The volume of code has significantly increased, but that hasn't translated into the real impact outcome, right, that we are looking for. And that's primarily because of the hypothesis that we have, right? The coding is only 30% of the part, but the rest 70% is everything else like testing, securing, optimizing, and deploying. Having said that, the AI is for the real, right? It's definitely a part of like our workflow now, a part of like a very integrated part of our software development lifecycle. And we can't deny that every engineers need to learn this paradigm and adopt this paradigm, right? This is going to give a significant boost in the productivity, and some of the data that we have seen, like developers are able to free up almost 30 to 40% of their manual effort in completing their tasks, right? This is augmenting their core capability of thinking about the different aspect of software delivery, right? So the entire learning path of how to use AI, that's where we need to invest more time on planning out how do we write the code, how do we develop the features. And once we spend more time on this planning and execution part becomes more easy. And then the rest of the things is also getting more and more augmented with AI, right? The how you review the code, how do you test the code, how do you secure it, how do you optimize it. So think about that. Yeah, AI is assistant, and this can definitely enhance the productivity. Engineers can now focus more on the things which they have in the past maybe left it to the senior, like architecture, system design. How do we make the judgment? Like that skills becomes very important. How do you judge the output of the AI, the code that's getting generated from the AI? How do you validate that? So somebody who has been really good at the PR reviews, that's the role becomes very critical in this entire vibe coding world. Then the real impact is also on the business outcome, right? Generating code is one part. How do we make it faster to the end users? That's become the real ask for today.
Definitely, Prashant. And I think that's a really important distinction. And I'm glad you emphasized it because what's coming through clearly is that AI isn't replacing the act of engineering. It's reshaping where engineers spend their cognitive energy. And instead of getting stuck in repetitive syntax and or routine debugging, developers are now able to operate at a much higher level of abstraction. And that's where AI is essentially becoming a force multiplier. Moving ahead, I think with AI, definitely we also have to consider the other aspect of AI, where we have to deal with certain challenges and risks that also come along with AI. And in 2005, AI become deeply integrated in enterprise operations, and I think in the coming years we are going to see that growth and that adoption growing immensely. And I think that's where CIOs, CEOs, and tech leaders face a critical challenge in how to utilize AI's power while managing its risks and ensuring compliance. Because according to Gartner, by 2027, 60% of organizations will fail to realize the anticipated value of their AI use cases due to incohesive ethical governance frameworks. Now, this governance gap exposes organizations to data quality issues or compliance failures, even untrustworthy AI outcomes, which eventually impacts business performance and regulatory standing. So we do know about the risks associated with AI. We have hallucinations, bias, insecure code suggestions, and much more. So, how can enterprises build guardrails, governance, and human in the loop controls into this newly AI powered SDLC?
Yeah, so this rightly pointed out, Priya, that the risk is real. What AI is operating is very generic knowledge, right, which is gained on a public information. And what is generating things, no, like yeah, we as a human, we as a developer, we as a leader definitely need to keep an eye in order to make sure that unintended changes, unintended behaviors are not going out in public, right? I think in order to really make sure that the inherent risk of AI powered software deliveries enterprise must go beyond viewing AI as a black box and instead try to integrate rigorous frameworks and governance in place, right, in the entire workflow, and making sure that humans have very clear oversight of what's output is giving. So output can't be taken for granted and made like deployed or made public without human in loop and the governance policies in place. So I think some of the steps that could be taken is making sure that every governance is codified as a policy, as a code, by defining security and operational policies as OPA policies for the enterprise, which can ensure that the AI generated changes are automatically evaluated against organizational standards before the deployment, making sure the quality gates are well established. Platform engineering team can rasterize the template and the pipeline with built-in security scanners, ensuring that AI native deliveries remain safe beyond boundaries. Automated verification at every steps, like whether it's in the build time, test time, deployment, infrastructure, every like whatever we had done as human, like we continue to use AI, but there is a very strong verification and testing in place, right? So that's those are the things that definitely need to be incorporated in the entire pipeline. The second aspect of bringing safety is also to give a lot of context to the AI, right? So AI today is operating as like it's operating on in a world like it has learned across all different knowledge base. But what works for the organization? What are the security policies? What are the OPA policies? What are the governance policies? What is my way of codifying that, right? Like in the organization, it's very, very important that AI start to understand the context in which it's operating. So giving those contexts either in terms of your knowledge base or code and making sure that those acts, those context is passed on to the AI before we expect to give certain tasks and the output is coming out of it. So a lot of these things are very, very important in order to prevent any kind of hallucination or the risk that associated with AI.
That was a very grounded way to look at it, Prashant, and especially the emphasis on guardrails being designed into the development life cycle rather than bolted on later. And I think the idea that AI governance in the SDLC isn't just a tooling problem, it's a cultural and a process shift, and leaders need to focus on this shift and ensure that whether, whenever they're trying to integrate AI and deeply embedded into how the code is written, I think it's important they need to rethink the traditional notions of accountability as well. And I think with our conversation today, the AI era is, I would say, is rewriting the rules of engineering. And it's no longer enough to hire coders who can execute on technical tasks, but you need professionals, AI professionals who can combine core AI expertise and adaptability, collaborations, along with ethical awareness. So, looking forward, Prashant, what does the future of SDLC look like in an AI driven era? And what should CEOs and CTOs start doing today to prepare for the future?
Yeah, so I think that's a really great question, Priya. With all these changes happening and the speed at which these changes are happening, right? Adaptability, I would say, is very, very important in the organization, and the awareness, adaptability and awareness of these changes are going to play a significant role in how organizations are going to evolve. The mindset from execution to orchestration, that is going to be, again, very, very important. As you said, like the illusion AI is taking care of, if you are able to define the task in the right context. But how do we, like with so many different aspects of the software development life cycle, this orchestration becomes very, very important. We need to also build a culture where every developers, every engineers, every product owners, everyone in the organization is going through this transformation and start adopting it in their day-to-day life, right? We have seen that when we started on this journey, right, initially it's a learning curve. A lot of feedback were there that, oh, AI is good for the greenfield project, but what happens in when we are trying to deploy it in the legacy? And then over the time, we learn how to also operate in the legacy code base and legacy frameworks and architecture. So there is a learning curve. There is a lot of ways to operate AI in every different aspect. So even giving time. So sometimes it takes time to build this confidence in the team to leverage AI to the fullest. One of like I can give you an example. One of the project that we were working on where we had to port a large number of plugins from old architecture to the new architecture. Initially, we felt that, yeah, this is a legacy transformation and this is going to take, AI may not be successful. But then after like few weeks of iteration and all, we got success and we reduced that entire effort by almost 10x. But the initial 2 weeks was tough. There was no PR raise, there was no code change done. And that could be frustrating for an engineer or even for the leader leading that project, right? Because for 2 weeks, there's no work coming out. And then suddenly there is a transformation which is helping you gain 10x efficiency. So that's the kind of trust and the investment needed from, of course, from the executives and all the leaders to make sure that there is a buying into adopting the AI. There is a learning curve which is required. And then the outcome will come over time, right? With slowly people trying to get up to the speed on this thing. Also, the role of, so whole of this learning and execution for focus is very, very important, Priya.
Definitely, Prashant. And I think we are entering a new era in software development where intelligence is infused into every aspect of the life cycle. The focus has shifted from simply improving tools or speeding delivery to transforming how software is designed, understood, and continuously advanced. And with the increasing rise of Gen AI and large language models, it impacts the way we design systems, how we write, the way we review code, and how we translate user needs into digital experiences. So I think it's not just improving how we develop software, it's transforming the very nature of development itself. And cutting edge platforms don't just accelerate the processes, I think they're needed to create smarter, more adaptive, and reliable software life cycles. Thank you so much, Prashant, for taking out the time and effort to be on our podcast today and guiding us through that. It's time to stop thinking of AI as a bolt-on tool and start embracing it as a co-developer, QA partner, documentation engine, and project manager all rolled into one. And whether it's the CTOs or CEOs that are planning for the next migration, I think AI powered SDLC is the next strategic differentiator for them. Thank you so much, Prashant, for your insights. It was lovely chatting with you.
Thank you, Priya. Yeah, same here.
Thank you. So, this is for our listeners. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion around the role of AI in software development life cycle and how does the future look like, and what are some things that you need to keep in mind while integrating AI in the software development life cycle. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes, and you can view all our previous episodes on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.